Here's your property story. A young couple in Singapore just paid $1.2 million for a 3-room flat they can barely afford. Not because they love it, not because it's perfect for them, but because they're terrified of being left behind. They've adopted the mindset of billionaire investors without the billionaire safety net, and they're not alone. Welcome to Why We Spend, where we explore the psychology behind our spending decisions. Today, we're diving into why ordinary Malaysians and Singaporeans have started buying homes like institutional investors, and why that's creating a financial trap nobody talks about. Let me paint you a picture. It's Sunday morning at your local kopitiam or mamak stall. The conversation turns to property, but nobody is talking about finding a nice place to live. Instead, you're hearing about capital appreciation, rental yields, and block potential. Your neighbor's analyzing properties like he's running a sovereign wealth fund, except he's actually a graphic designer with $500 left in his account after paying his mortgage each month. This shift didn't happen by accident. Somewhere along the way, we absorbed the language and tactics of institutional investors, the massive pension funds and real estate investment trusts that manage billions. We started using their vocabulary, their strategies, their mindset. But here's the problem. We forgot one crucial detail. We don't have the resources. Think about how institutional investors actually work. They diversify across dozens of properties, multiple countries, different asset types. They have teams of analysts crunching data. They have cash reserves to weather 5, 10, 15-year downturns. They can hold properties at a loss for decades because it's a tiny portion of a massive portfolio. Now, think about the average home buyer. You're putting most of your net worth into one property. You have no research team. Your cash reserve is maybe 3 months of expenses if you're lucky. And you absolutely cannot afford for this investment to perform poorly because your entire financial future depends on it. Yet we've convinced ourselves we need to think like them. Your HDB flat isn't just your home anymore. It's an asset. Your starter condo isn't where you live. It's a stepping stone property. You're not choosing a place to build your life. You're holding an appreciating asset. This plays out in fascinating ways across the causeway. In Singapore, I see buyers choosing cramped 3-room flats near MRT stations over spacious 4-room flats further out. Why? Not because they work in town, not because they prefer smaller spaces, but because the rental demand is stronger. They're living in a home chosen for an imaginary future tenant, not for themselves. Malaysian buyers show similar patterns, loading up on multiple properties in Iskandar, Forest City, various new townships, each developer promising you'll get institutional level returns, each buyer committing their life savings based on those promises. But here's where it gets really interesting. Property spending isn't just about investment anymore. It's become competitive theater. You don't just want a home, you want to win. Win means outbidding others, securing the best unit, getting in before everyone else. In Singapore's scarcity-driven market, this turns every property launch into a battlefield. People queue overnight armed with spreadsheets comparing price per square foot across districts. The fear isn't about missing a home, it's about being priced out forever, watching from the sidelines whilst others build wealth. In Malaysia, where there's actually oversupply in many areas, the competition becomes about accumulation. Your colleague has 2 properties, you feel behind. Never mind that you're both struggling with negative cash flow from tenants who keep leaving. This competitive mindset triggers some dangerous psychological traps. You stay in bad property deals because of sunk costs. You've already invested so much, how can you walk away? You follow the herd into oversupplied markets because everyone else is buying, and you only remember the success stories whilst ignoring the quiet struggles of over-leveraged owners drowning in debt. The property investment industry fits this beautifully. Seminars, courses, TV shows, all showcasing ordinary people building property empires. The message is intoxicating. If you're not using property to build wealth, you're falling behind. What they don't mention is the timing, the luck, the family money that funded those deposits, the inheritance nobody talks about. Now let's talk about what this actually costs you. not just in money, but in life. That Singaporean couple with the $1.5 million flat might look fine on paper. Dual income, professionals, approved loan. But they're not just buying shelter, they're buying 25 years of financial prison. Cannot switch careers because must service mortgage. Cannot relocate for better opportunities because locked into property. Cannot have children without severe anxiety because already stretched to breaking point. Malaysian buyers face different pressures. Lower entry prices seem manageable until interest rates rise, until tenants leave and you can't find new ones, until oversupply crashes rental rates and your Cyberjaya condo becomes a monthly cash drain instead of the passive income you were promised. The psychological toll is exhausting. It's not just the financial stress, it's the mental gymnastics required to maintain the story you tell yourself. When values stagnate or fall, you must convince yourself it's temporary, that you're still building wealth, that the sacrifice is worth it. This cognitive dissonance wears people down in ways they never anticipated. This creates what I call lifestyle poverty, having assets on paper whilst being cash poor in reality. Singaporeans joke about being asset-rich, cash poor, but it's not funny when it's your life. Living in $1 million flat whilst eating economy bee-hoon every day. Owning property whilst unable to afford a decent holiday. Having wealth you cannot access without selling your home. Here's what nobody calculates: the opportunity cost. Money locked in property cannot compound elsewhere. A 30-year-old who rents cheaply and invests the difference in diversified portfolios might end up wealthier than someone who stretches to buy. But this gets dismissed immediately because rent is throwing money away. That belief is so embedded in Asian property psychology that questioning it feels almost offensive. So what's the alternative? How do you make property decisions in a world that pressures you to think like institutions? First, separate shelter from investment. Your home provides stability and lifestyle benefits. These have value even without appreciation. Choose the flat that fits your family, not the one with better investment potential. Second, calculate real affordability, not maximum loan. Just because the bank approves it doesn't mean you should borrow it. Keep housing costs under 30% of take-home income. This buffer allows for life changes and actual enjoyment of your income. Third, value flexibility. How would this purchase affect your ability to switch jobs, to relocate, to handle emergencies? These matter more than price per square foot comparisons. Fourth, resist social comparison. Your colleague with 3 properties might be drowning in debt. Your friend who bought early might have had family help. Personal financial decisions should stem from personal reality, not competitive positioning. Finally, accept that renting isn't failure. It's a legitimate choice providing flexibility and predictable costs. Institutional investors rent to tenants all the time. Those tenants aren't failures. They're making a different choice. Property spending psychology won't change overnight. But you can reclaim personal decision-making by recognizing when you're being influenced by logic that doesn't apply to your circumstances. The goal isn't to never buy property. It's to buy when it makes sense for you, not because billionaires also buy property. They're playing a different game with different resources. Stop competing in a race nobody needed to enter. For more on spending psychology and smarter financial decisions, visit whyWeSpend.com. Subscribe to this channel for weekly insights into why we spend the way we do. Thanks for watching.